Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes. This is going to be your player ratings as well as a match reaction for Arsenal 3, Southampton 1. I don't know if you guys can see behind me, but I have a new little sign here, and if you can't read it, it says good vibes only. It was not all good vibes today. I looked at it this morning and I said, Arsenal, can we only have good vibes? And they didn't do it. But I will say that there was some positives amongst some not so great things, So you guys know how I am. I'm going to do all of it. So again, I always give the disclaimer. If you only want to talk about the positive things because we won, there are channels to do that. There's definitely some other things we can tease out a little bit, but we're not going to spend that much time on it because ultimately we just needed to win the game. And I didn't really care. I mean, I would have preferred a 6-0 with beautiful football and all that kind of stuff, but it could have been I didn't really care. I just felt like we needed to get through the game, if that makes sense. And when we've played a lot of football in the last couple of weeks, and I am kind of happy about the international break coming up because I do think maybe some players will get rest. We know some players won't, but maybe it's just a good time to recalibrate. So yeah, make sure you guys are smashing the likes. There's so much stuff. Shamaria says this team, man, only Arsenal make a game against promoted side difficult. I mean, we're like the only team that's, sucked against Southampton. I think a lot of that had to do with the lineup that Mikel chose, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if we had started with our regular starting 11, we would have absolutely kicked their ass like 5-6-0. The problem is that there's still questions around certain players and their ability to contribute at a decent level when the starters are not starting. And also Mikel continuously kicks himself by choosing dynamics that we know don't work, but maintaining them over and over and over again. I will say one thing that I was worried about at the beginning that ended up not being an issue was Thomas Partey at right back. I think Southampton being possibly the worst team in the league, and also them not having a tricky winger and stuff like that made it so that Thomas had not that much defensive to do, but then on the ball he did good things. So that, even though that was a red flag to me, I was like, no. But there also wasn't that much we could do other than that. So yeah, but Havertz as the lone 10. Now Havertz had a great game, but him as the lone number 10 creates issues for us creatively. And then you have the obvious Jesus, so and then also Rice being in this second striker high role. I've spoken about it. Sorry guys, it just got instantly so much hotter in here as soon as I started. But it just doesn't work, so I'm not surprised that after that initial 10 minutes that we had dominance, that there was a lull after that, because that group just doesn't work together and those dynamics don't work. And we've seen it over and over again. And so I wasn't surprised. What's really frustrating is that those first 10 minutes, Southampton were basically begging us to score a goal and we couldn't. And I think that speaks to some of the players not being great finishers. They're not gunmen, and that will always come back to haunt us. But yeah, I think Arteta made that a difficult match by some of the decisions that he made. And I think, being on Twitter before the game, obviously there's always oh my gosh, you guys always want rotation, but then when you get it, you don't like it. It's you can rotate without screwing up every dynamic and doing things that we know don't work. Just because you don't have Odegaard and you want to rotate doesn't mean that he only had that group that he could have put out there. We didn't need 3 DMs. Waneri probably should have started from the beginning. I think it's strange that he's going backwards, and now not giving him any time in a game like this. And you don't have to play Jesus up front. If you were going to start Havertz, you could have just started him up front. So yeah, I think Arteta made it more difficult than it needed to be. I think if, we start with just, you could have still rotated a little bit and still got a better result than what we did. That was not inevitable that we needed to do. That being said, once the starters came in and the dynamics changed a little bit more, it was fine. We still gave up some chances to Southampton, but I also think we were tired from midweek. We played a pretty difficult game midweek against PSG, and then we had to come in and get up for this game. So there is going to be a little bit of drop off here and there. We've had a difficult run at the beginning. We really have. Jagoon says Jesus must never play 9 for Arsenal again. Havertz has fully been revived. I mean, Havertz has been, probably top 3 players so far this season for Arsenal. The end product is there. All the the goals, the output, the playing, and then also the hard work, all of those things are coming together. Now. Where, in some games you would get the output, but the other stuff wasn't great, or, you'd get the hard work, but then the finishing wasn't there. I feel like in these last 2 games, all of that really came together. He's having some really well-rounded games now where the output is also there. And so he has to be top 3 players so far this season. Not only that, but probably our most important player, because he's probably the only player at this point that we don't have any sort of answer for. If we don't have him, it's really difficult to see where we would have a suitable replacement. And so that just shows how important he is to the team. And, well done him, because literally once he went up front, we just looked so much better. Nuances says Havertz was incredible. Martinelli on his redemption arc. We'll talk about that too. Let's see. TB says getting Sterling was the stupidest thing ever. I warned people about Sterling. I actually don't think Sterling was. I think Sterling is actually a victim of having to play with Jesus, if I'm honest. Saka and Sterling, neither one of them really looked that great with him up front. I actually feel like Sterling is getting grouped in with Jesus, when in reality, I thought Sterling was pretty decent. It wasn't anything to write home about, but I feel like we're grouping them together when their performances weren't the same. Gerald says, SAKAVERTZ is indeed cooking. What a man of the match performance from Havertz today. And I also, I don't remember the last time that Martinelli and Saka have combined for a goal. I talk about this all the time, but the first season that we challenged, Saka and Martinelli connected so much. They finished off each other's moves. They were so much more in sync with each other. And we lost that last season. And I feel like the more that Saka and Martinelli play together and play off of each other, the better we are. But for some reason, that just wasn't happening last season. I think a lot of the dynamic shift that Arteta had in midfield stopped that. And then you had Havertz kind of learning whatever role he was supposed to be in. So, but I think SAKAVERTZ has been our best combination so far this season. But if we can get SAKANELLI back too, we'll be in such a good position, because that was our bread and butter that first season, was having 2 wingers that were assisting and scoring goals. And so it was nice to see Saka does that cross that he's done so many times. I remember Trossard finishing off a very similar move against Chelsea away last season. It was he does that all the time. If you just make the run, you'll score that goal. And so Martinelli, what is that in the last 3 games in the Premier League? What is that for goal? His GA, is it 4? 2 goals and 2 assists. So well done him, because listen, we're not doing anything without Martinelli. Jacob says Jesus needs to go. I'm tired. I mean, people were telling me that he was going to come good, and he's not. I'm sorry. That's something I'm going to stand on 10 toes down. He's just not. His mentality is just not there. He was just really poor. He's really poor on the counterattack too. He's just not somebody that I feel like deserves to be starting at this stage, so we need to do everything we can to keep Havertz fit. I don't know. He's so far down the pecking order in every position on the wing and striker. So yeah, yeah. Going on says panic buy and wash striker. The Wiki Tiki says Sterling did need to be more direct and aggressive, but in that first half, we kept on shifting play on that right hand side. We didn't mix it up. AFC Whiskey says XG 2.58 and only 6 on target. That is very poor. I mean, when you waste we wasted that whole first half, and then we were sleepy at the beginning of it. Genuinely, we didn't start really playing until we took Jesus off. We made some changes. So we wasted so much of that game. That first 45 minutes was just a joke. It really was. And so I'm not surprised to see that. Also, Southampton have conceded 6 goals on corners, and we didn't score or even look like scoring on any of those. I just didn't understand why we just didn't put it on top of one of our center backs' heads. I didn't get that. Ramsdale is generally so poor. We also, our first shot on goal was Partey in like the 46th minute of the first half, like in stoppage time. And he spilled it and Sterling almost scored. We just were so complacent and slow. And it was like once those first 10 minutes went by, which we should have had at least 2 goals in those first 10 minutes, they were begging us to score. We went into that malaise. I've seen us do that before where it's like, eventually it'll come. You need to be more aggressive and take shots, baby. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Ramsdale is he's so butterfingers. I don't know why we weren't shooting more, but I bet you most of that 2.58 came in those last 20 minutes of the game, because before that we were just like sleepwalking. Like, it was just so weird. But yeah, I think this is a direct reflection of the team that was chosen. Because when we played against Leicester and we didn't have Jesus out there, and we started pretty much our best, starting 11 without Odegaard, we peppered them. Even though we fucked up and gave up 2 goals, the attacking performance was great in that game, where it was like very different today. So yeah, strange one. Strange decisions. Sky King says, yes, Ben, he did. I get rotation, but Sterling and Jesus. The Mad Hatter says, why does playing Southampton always feel like slaying a damn dragon? Oh my God, I can't stand this curse. Well, at least we won this time, because I can't remember the last time we beat them. Junior says, guys, if you remember that dribble of Jesus do and the Southampton defender hold your shirt, that dribble is a thing for a few players in the world. I would honestly, Junior, to be honest, like that little dribble where you got pulled back, that's cute, but even if he got free, he would have picked the wrong person, or he would have taken a shot himself. We were on a counterattack, and instead of just passing it to Saka, you could have kicked it with any part of your foot. And as long as you didn't put too much on it, Saka would have been in on goal. He just, the dribbling, we're so beyond that. Jinky. We don't need it. We need goals, and we need to be more effective in the final third. Like, we're so beyond it that people are holding on to the aesthetics of Jesus from 2 years ago. And I just think Arteta needs to, I know he did fire in the belly and really went big on Jesus coming good this season, and this is the best he's ever looked. But yeah, we don't need to play games. Like, the guy is just not it. Bro Pro says Saka is on business as usual. I can't remember a game where he didn't get any GA. 2 assists from open play for all the people that were, because I was one of them. That was like, some of them need to come from open play. But he still is having a good season. I don't know why people are pretending like Saka's not that guy. Like, he definitely is. 2 assists from open play and a goal. It would have been criminal if he didn't get anything, Johnny D says Saka was not very good today from corners. That's why. I mean, even if Saka wasn't good from corners, even when it was going into those spots, he wasn't bad from every single corner. And I get it, deflection, Johnny D, I see you fighting for your life, to defend Jesus, but genuinely, he was the main issue today. Chola says, I don't even understand why Jesus starts. He makes players around him look poor. It's just everything about him just doesn't work. So yes, Albert says, Sterling, no play bad, bro. I don't think he played bad, to be honest. I really don't. I think he's getting grouped in with Jesus, but I think he was better than Jesus, but we also have to give him time to get up to speed. I think if players come in and even if they don't get that much playing time, we expect them to just be like ready to go. Sterling, he didn't even really play for Chelsea for so long. So I want to give him more time before I just am like, Sterling is just the worst signing in the world. Just give him a fucking minute, AJ says it's a bit disappointing that we can't even rotate against a 19th Southampton at home. It's not that we can't rotate, it's that like we could have rotated. We could have played I would say if we would have played, let's say our defense was exactly the same. Let's say Partey was back there, Calafiori, Saliba, and Gabriel, and we would have just played the same midfield that we played against Bolton, and then we would have just put Kai instead of Jesus up front. We would have scored 6-7 goals. It's the dynamics. It's not the fact that we can't rotate. We can rotate. It's not that we cannot rotate. There's just certain players and certain dynamics that don't work for us. We had no creativity in that midfield. Genuinely, I don't really understand why we continue dropping Havertz into midfield. Just play him up front. Doesn't make any sense. I didn't get it. Dom says, Saka has been amazing, but I'm concerned how right-hand side reliant we are for creativity. Yeah, I feel like you just got to give that a little bit of time. We haven't really got like Marino in for reals. We haven't really seen the best from Martinelli yet. We just have to give that a little bit of time. We saw that our left-hand side was a lot better with Trossard in there at the 10 too. So I think I just have to give that time. But, I feel like I just want to give that time with the players that we brought in to give them a moment to like get going with that. But until we bring in like a left center mid that's like a creator, I feel like we are always going to kind of go to that side a little bit more. Or, if when Odegaard comes back, he's given a little bit more freedom to go drift to the left, we're always going to be more right side dominant because our better players are on that side. So, yeah. Chosen One says, Jess, may we talk about Saka's playmaking, one of the best playmakers in the world. We need to actually start saying this because he gets almost no credit. I think part of the no credit is aesthetically, Saka is not the most, to me, he's not aesthetically pleasing. I love watching Saka play, but I think, he's not exotic enough for people. Like he's not, flowy, and he's not doing all these step overs and, whatever. So his efficiency gets overlooked because aesthetically people have convinced themselves that it doesn't look good. But Saka's not only consistently effective in the final third, but he is one of the best playmakers, I think. I think his greatest strength is his creativity. I think Arteta has tried to make him into a talisman, and he's done a good job pushing himself to become more of a goal threat. And that's great. But I think ultimately, like if you support him with better goal scores, it'll all come good in the wash, I think right now Havertz and him are doing a good job playing off of each other. So you're seeing both of them like assist each other or score goals, whatever. But until we get like another clinical finisher in there, I think we're putting too much pressure on Saka to just be the guy, where I think if we just leaned into his creativity, it would be a little bit better. You know what I mean? So, but his playmaking is great. I think it's just the fact that, well, one, he has to do so much more than most creative players because he has to drop back. He has to basically play right back at times. He has to do so much. And then like he's also being looked at to score 15, 20 goals. That's a lot. A lot of players don't have to do that. They just have to be creative. He has to do more than anybody. If Saka played in the Bundesliga, or La Liga, he would get like 50 goal involvements, genuinely. So, yeah, he's great. Lee says Trossard is also the king of cooking. Here's so awesome. He's in form, he's in form. John says Arteta should stop bigging up Waneri in press conferences if he doesn't want to start him. I thought Arteta's starting to regress again. He's starting to go back into the playing the older players just for the sake of it, which, he doesn't need to do. He didn't need 3 DMs on the pitch. I remember when we played against, because this is kind of what I was expecting today, was it to be more like when we played against Sheffield last season. Now, think about the team that we had out there. We had Nketiah, and then we had Odegaard, Rice, and Emil started at left center mid. We cooked them. Eddie, hat trick. It wasn't even pretty. They're just such a bad team that we didn't even have to be perfect to score goals. And we cooked them. It was great. That's what I kind of expected today. And that was like last season against Sheffield. Southampton are not that much better than Sheffield. We could have went with 2 attacking profiles and just played Rice at the 6. Rice in this second striker bullshit role is so ridiculous to me. It just, every time, it's the ick. I want to throw up every time I watch it. But it was like we had 3 DMs on the pitch. We have, Partey kind of trying to invert a little bit. You have Jorginho in there. His role is not really that, clear. He's getting lost in it. Rice is too far up. It was just like strange. And I just feel like the most obvious thing to have done, he could have done, was just play the same midfield that he played against Bolton, or just play 2 number 10s, and just go with that. But he went with nonsense. So he's regressing, Mikel. He started off playing Waneri, and then he's like, no, and I don't get it. Ben said, Calafiori seems like a DM profile to me. His positioning on the wing is awful, but his recovery is elite. Calafiori is an interesting one because I think he got cooked one time, and then obviously people that don't like Calafiori or try to prove that Calafiori is not good for some reason are holding on to that. But I thought everything else that he did was fantastic, honestly. He's always going to get cooked in those wide areas. He is slow, and he needs to learn when to get tight and when not to get tight. But I think beyond that, I thought he was probably our best player in the first half. And that just says so much with the players that we had up front. He's great. He still starts for me every game. I don't know what to tell you. He's great. I just think we're not used to having players that are instinctual. We're used to control and playing slow and being safe, and when you have a player that's not that, we're like, oh shit, what? Get me Tomiyasu. It's like, no, I want to see more, instinctual play. I thought the best attacking performance that we had, where we just looked fluid, was when we had Calafiori at left back and Timber on the right. I thought that they were great. So yeah, but yeah, I'm not I'm not the thing. I thought Partey was fine at right back. I just felt like, when he's playing at right back, he's not really playing right back. He's playing more like inverted, and he's more like a DM. So essentially, you had both Jorginho and Partey out there. You had Havertz weirdly in the 10, and then you had Declan Rice far up, and none of that worked. It's not just about it's not Partey played poorly or Jorginho was shit or Rice was shit. Those dynamics just don't work. None of those players are bad players. They're all very good players. Arteta actively makes them worse by not surrounding players with players that make them play better. When Jorginho and Rice usually play together, they are joined at the hip. Rice plays so much closer to him. He didn't play that way today, and that's probably because Arteta felt like, well, I have Partey on that side, so I can push Rice high. Rice high is never an option. It should never be an option. It just shouldn't. So I just don't feel like Jorginho needed to be there. Rice could have just played in the 6, and Partey could have inverted next to him, and then you could have played Waneri, with Trossard or something like that. but he went with the weird theme. And I just don't understand why. I was like, this is just so weird to me. And then I just wasn't surprised. Like, I wasn't surprised how poor it was. Like, I was just like, this sucks. The American brother says, we need to invest with these rotated lineup at some point in a season, or we will crap out like we did 2 years ago. This was 60 minutes of great data for our team. Everyone relax. Saida says, I've said this before, but Arteta being a risk-adverse manager is frustrating because we can do a lot better with the players that we have. Let's see. Says MLS doesn't have enough experience for the Premier League yet. Don't underestimate teams. That's how you lose. I mean, respectfully, I disagree with this whole idea that we can't have one 17-year-old on the pitch or the whole house of cards is going to fall down it's just ridiculous. If you had Partey and, at right back, you have Jorginho in the DM, you have Rice out there, and you have, if you had Wineri out there, do we really think the whole house of cards is going to fall down because you have one 17-year-old in there? That's crazy, that's crazy to me. I just don't, not even with MLS, with Wineri, I think people are trying to figure out a way where it makes sense, but it just doesn't. It's never made sense. Every time that we've done this, we failed. Every time that Arteta forces the older bad players in, or forces dynamics in to not play a younger player, we end up having to play that younger player, and then it all makes sense. So we don't have to, you know what I mean? We don't have to do this. It's a choice. William says, I love the way Jess looks at things. Well, you're one person that does. Most people hate all my opinions, but thank you. Jordan says, Calafiori is a solid defender, but he is not a natural fullback to cover the fullback spaces. He naturally veers central. And I think a lot of times we don't look at what people's natural positions are and then does that suit them. It's just narratives or agendas. I would if Partey had gotten cooked today, I wouldn't have been able to really say that much because that's not his position. It doesn't naturally suit him to be at right back. I don't think it naturally suits Calafiori either. He'll either end up being a Ben White where eventually he learns what to do and what not to do, or he'll be a Kivior, where we'll be you probably need to go back center back. So I think it's too early to be making these hard, he's shit at left back, he can't defend, get him out. I think it's too soon for that. I would give it more time, to see if he's going to be a Ben White or a Kivior. But one thing that he does do is he really helps our attack. And I wouldn't want to give that up because we're afraid of the odd cooking. I think you need to keep him in the team. He's not anybody who's not natural in that position. You have to give them grace because it's that doesn't suit them at all. So to me, it would be more on the manager and the coaching staff to figure out whether or not this is a coachable thing or if this is this doesn't work. So we need to modify and do something different. Burmese says, watching Arsenal was so stressful. I was expecting a smoother game and a high score line. It was unnecessarily frustrating. Yeah, it was. Obrizi says, I think if Havertz plays in midfield, it can work if Leo is up front, but Jesus is just horrible, killed our whole attack. But even I think this is the thing is even when Havertz is playing in midfield and Trossard is up front, he's not playing in midfield. Trossard is. We played like that against PSG. Who was actually doing the playmaking? It was Trossard. Trossard was actually playing in the 10. Havertz, when Odegaard is not in, he can't play in the 10 role. You can't, because you have to have somebody that has the ability to create something, somebody that's more natural in those positions. So I think Havertz in midfield should just be only if the house is on fire and there's nothing else, but even when Havertz is playing in midfield and Trossard is up front, it's not that. Trossard is literally playing in midfield, Havertz is up front. Like he was against PSG. So they may swap positions here and there, but ultimately Trossard is playing in the 10 position and they're playing off of each other. So yeah, it just doesn't work. and I don't know why we continue. I just don't see it. Pew 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 says Waneri will be subbed in for Odegaard after his return. Our midfield can't be put in Waneri's hands with two DMs behind him. When is a good time though? Like, I mean, two DMs behind him, so he has all the platform for him to do well because he has two players in there that are experienced and good enough players. You have an England international in Declan Rice, and you have Jorginho in there that could support a young player. This is just all nonsense. Having one 17-year-old doesn't mean the whole midfield is on his shoulders. There's three players in there. That doesn't make sense. Big G, thank you so much for your super chat. Says Calafiori has huge potential. He is a defender who has ruthless directness in both runs and passing after recovery. That is unique. His passing is so good, and he does the one thing that none of our left backs can seem to do, and that's find the penalty spot. Like when he's crossing the ball, he can find, like, I wish our midfielders were more on it and were more excited about scoring goals, because every time Calafiori gets to the byline, they should be running, because he put in a perfect pass in there today and nobody was running onto it. He's maybe because we're just not used to our fullbacks being good in the final third, but he just adds so much. And I feel like if you have a player that's not as good defensively, and I say this even about the left center mid, if we wanted to go and play two number 10s, if you play somebody in those positions and defensively they have a little bit of like flaws defensively, whatever they do going forward has to make up for that. It has to compensate for that lack of defensive security that we're going to have. Most of the time, we don't get that. Most of the time, somebody being more attacking comes at a really great cost, like Zinchenko. But I feel like people are trying to make Calafiori into Zinchenko when it's not that. Not only is he really good on the ball, whether he's inverting or he's, out there in the left half space, but defensively, I feel like beyond the times where he gets tight and gets caught, he's really good defensively, defending the box, winning most of his duels. He does all those things. He doesn't get caught with the offside too. Like, Zinchenko used to get caught all the time, not stepping up with the line. I do feel like people are very harsh on Calafiori and want him to be Zinchenko for some reason. Use your eyes. And Nike says, in fairness, he does pretty well defensively. I think he still has old Gabby Bozo gene that hopefully he'll eventually shed like Big Gabby did. So yeah, I think ultimately we had some really good stuff and some not so great stuff, but we won. So there's that. So let's go ahead and get into the player ratings. Let's see. Let's go into. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I am so hungry. Why do I do this every time? Okay. 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 Raya didn't have much to do, but had one moment where I was like, Ramsdale is the one that's supposed to be flailing, not you. He had that one moment where it went off of the bar. I was like, hello? Why are you flapping? But other than that, he didn't really have anything to do. Don't think he could have done anything on that one goal that they scored. Odd game. Very odd game. It was like Ramsdale's like bozo infected Raya for a minute. I was like, hello? I'm gonna give him like a 6. Like, no clean sheet, no real saves were made, had a flappy moment. Didn't like that. Don't do it again. Partey, I think all things considered, he was playing in a position that didn't suit him. I don't think you can, and this is where, like, again, I don't feel like you can be mad at Partey for not overlapping and helping Saka in that first half, because that's just not his game. You would never, if Partey is overlapping, I mean, I would be scared to death because you don't want him to pull any muscles or whatever, but he had to play there in an emergency, and I think he did a good job. Didn't really lose the ball. Didn't really play it too safe either. Like, it wasn't like he was so scared that he was going to lose the ball that he was like playing safe. He was doing a decent job on the ball too. So I think he had a good game. I'm going to give him 7.5. I think like that's, if you're playing out of position and you get out with that, you did a good job. That being said, Tomiyasu, you need to get fit. There's no reason why Thomas Partey should be playing right back at this stage, and we tend to get multiple injuries in one position a lot. And so it's just so like frustrating that both Timber and White are injured and Tomiyasu is still injured. It's like, well, he came back today, but he's not fit to step in for them. But yeah, 7.5. Because he played out of position and he played well. Saliba was really good in the first half. I thought he probably could have done better for the goal. He was just kind of like, but that's the thing about having all that dominance. And I said it in the first half. I was like, we have all this dominance, and the only shot on goal, well, we had one shot on goal. They had one shot on goal. That's kind of how it is at home for us. We're so dominant that I feel like we almost get nervous because we know that all they need is one pass through the defense and they score. I do think we are giving up goals a lot quicker than we were last season. I don't think our defense has been anywhere near as tight as it was last season. They're not terrible. They're still good. But the softness of some of these goals to me are just like, do we have to give these up? Maybe I'm being harsh. I thought the first half, again, when Southampton were just like anticipating getting ripped by 4 or 5 goals, they were just like a non-factor. Once they decided that they were in that game, things got tougher for our defenders. And I don't think they looked the best all the time, especially for the goal. I don't think it was great. So I'm going to give Saliba, it's tough. I'm going to give him like a 7. I don't feel confident in that, but maybe like a 7. I don't know. I thought he could have done better for the goal. But that being said, everything else was like fine to good, They didn't have anybody to really trouble us. Like, it's just weird. It's so weird when the goals that we give up at home are so soft. Like, they're so soft and so easy. The last 3 goals that we gave up were to relegation fodder, and we're just so nothing goals, but yet we struggled to score a goal. It's so weird. But that's not all on Saliba. I just thought he could have done better for the goal. Gabriel, I didn't really call his name that much today. They didn't really call his name that much today. It was crazy. Gabriel didn't really have, he didn't influence, but then that's a good thing because that means that the other team is not doing anything. But at the same time, I feel like the only thing that was missing, I was hoping that Gabriel would get something from a corner or something like that, but I'm not gonna ding him for that. It's just there wasn't much there, for us to talk about when it comes to Gabriel. So 7. And then Calafiori, who it's so weird because I think Saliba, Gabriel probably had a smoother. You look at Gabriel, he didn't get cooked at all. He didn't get cooked at all. Nothing really happened. But actually, can think of so many things from the Calafiori performance that would give him a higher score, despite getting cooked that one time. So I think that's the. Is it with Calafiori? Is it high highs and low lows? What is it? But I think there's more pros in the bucket than cons for me. That performance to me was fabulous again. I don't know. He just moves me. I'm going to give him a 7.5. If he didn't get cooked that once, I probably would give him an 8. But I know you guys are probably crying in the comments, how could you give him a higher score? He got cooked that one time. He's not a good defender. Watch it with your eyes. The guy was fucking bomb. He was so good. He was winning the ball back. His passes were crisp. He was getting into the final third, making them crosses. He was winning them headers. That guy is a baller. That guy is so good. I don't know what to tell you. But I took away that half point just because he got cooked that one time, but he was bomb. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Sammy says he revived our left side offensively. Bro Pro says that aura is auraing. Martin N says Cala 8. Die Hard Gunner says Calafiori was good, solid 7.5. William says Calafiori 8. African Theory says 8. 7. Thompson says Cala is a big baller. Functioning Addict says 7. Yeah, I thought he was great. Like, I thought he was great. So, but then again, like, no one's probably gonna get like the really, really good scores are reserved for Saka and Havertz. So I need to have room to go up. Also taking into consideration that we had a whole 45 minutes where we were poor, so I got to keep it realistic. But he was great. I liked it. I liked it. A lot. So let's see. Jorginho, again, had some decent moments on the ball when we were having those moments of dominance at the beginning, and then faded away really badly, like towards the middle. Like, how it seemed like to me is we had them 10 minutes where we were like, yeah, we're into it, let's go. And then we didn't score. And then we went into like this malaise where the passes started to not pass anymore. It was like we were trying to force things that we didn't need to force. There were some really poor shots from like Gabriel is shooting for some reason. Saka gets it. He shoots it way over the bar. It was just like, and then Jorginho's doing these passes and they're not coming off and into space. And it was just like, why are we forcing it? Southampton are so bad. Just get in the box and shoot. I didn't understand why we were trying to construct the perfect goal against Southampton. But it's like a weird one. I don't think Jorginho was bad. I don't think we needed him out there. I really don't. I think we could have just done with Rice. And besides, he took one shot and it was close. But once we got to Partey shooting, Jorginho shooting, Gabriel shooting, I was like, and then we were just crossing and hoping. I was like, oh, this team really doesn't know how to attack Southampton at home. Like, genuinely. Like, it was weird. So I don't think Jorginho was poor or anything like that. I think he was just like average. So I'm gonna give him a 6. It just wasn't what it needed to give. It wasn't what it needed to give. So yeah, but again, why did we need 3 DMs? If you knew Partey was gonna invert, we didn't need all that. We didn't need all that. Rice, I thought, not his best game. I don't think he had the best game. That being said, I just, how I feel about him being high. I just don't think it suits his skill set. So I'm going to give him a 6 too. I thought he was average today. I don't understand why we continue to do it. Whenever he plays in the deeper role, he's so much better. The further up he gets, the worse he gets. It's almost like he's not a second striker. Arteta. And then I don't want to put Havertz in this section because I feel like he was a center forward. But yeah, I'll put Havertz in here. Like night and day, put him up front and things just happen. Things just happen. I don't think he was even terrible, in midfield. I just think that it's so obvious where he should be playing. And it's just so obvious what his influence is on our team when he's playing in that position. I think you're always going to get hard work from him. He's never going to be lazy and never, but once the actual performances outside of the output marry and the output is consistent, the player is like, it's hard to deny his importance in this team. He's definitely the one player in the team that we cannot replace at this stage, and probably Saka too. People go Saliba too, but you know what I mean? Like, his importance cannot be understated at this stage. The goal, it's like, what I like about Havertz is that he always looks like he really wants to win. And I know that that's going to sound weird because it's like, of course they want to win. But sometimes when you're not playing well, you're looking at the body language of players and like, are they even desperate to score? I think we can be a little casual at times. Like, oh, we have all this time. Havertz, immediately after we conceded that goal, went and scored. He was like, we're at Southampton, lads. Like, or, we're playing against Southampton. What is this? He just went and scored. Then he had another little mazy run and tried to score again. And that, and I think he helped create the third goal with, a little tackle or whatever. And then Trossard fumbles the step overs and then Saka finishes it off. I just think, Havertz just was phenomenal today. And really, all goals are not created equal. Goals that help equalize or goals that end up being the winners are so, so important, So that goal was so needed. It really was. So, and his combination with Saka right now is just, you can't break it apart. This is Arteta. For the love of God, when things are working, don't fuck it up. Don't. When things are working, don't move anything. Don't touch, please. Saka and Havertz has been our best combination up front so far this season. It just works. Just like we're starting to see Calafiori and Martinelli start to work. Don't change it. And I know we wanted to we wanted to rotate, but if you were going to place Havertz anyway, he should have just played up front because you're going to play him either way, So yeah, that combination, it's comboing. It's giving me what it needs to give. And so again, even if I've always questioned the signing, you really cannot deny how important he is to this team, and I thought he was fantastic. I'm going to give him a 9. That might be like too high, but I don't care. That goal was so important. We were fucked. Like, we were so fucked. I was like, oh my God, we are so tragic right now. It's just the script is so obvious. And I think it's just like the desperation to get that goal, the level of goal that it was. And then all of his play after that when he was playing up front was just like so good. So I'm going to give him a 9. That goal just meant something to me. Like, it just meant something to me. Simon says, without Havertz, we would have been in trouble in this game. Martin N says Kai 9. Chosen One says Kai also set up Saka's goal with the amazing play. BroPro says Havertz was doing the Odegaard role and he did good, all things considered. Yeah, he did. He did well. Arteta just should bin it off though. Like, genuinely play him up front. And the closest thing you have to Odegaard is Waneri. Stop making it harder than it needs to be. Like, Jacob says Saka 9.5. We're going to get there in a second. Winning Way says Saka has been hitting numbers this year. Philip says, good shout, Jess. Anike says his goals moved me differently. Denzel says we seriously also need Odegaard back. To me, honestly, like, I don't, I want to talk about this, so I want to leave this up for a second. But with me, like, Odegaard conversation, when people are trying to say that we're better without him, we have genuinely struggled to create chances in abundance, except for the Leicester game without Odegaard. Every other game has been a struggle. And I think some of it is today was more, today could have been like Leicester had Arteta made the right decisions. But in the more difficult games, like Spurs away, PSG, all that kind of, we didn't create a lot. And so Odegaard is missed. And I get that people want to make it seem like he's not, but he is. But Arteta's also, he's doubling it. Like, he's making it even worse. So we do miss Odegaard, but today wasn't about missing Odegaard. Today, I think, was more about the team that we started with. And that's coming from, like, I could definitely be sitting here like, I told y'all we were missing Odegaard. I told y'all we were missing Odegaard. But if you don't think we are, you genuinely don't have a clue. I shouldn't even have to say it. But today wasn't really about that. We should be able, Southampton and Leicester should be formalities with or without Odegaard. That's how good we are now. But I do wonder how we're going to do against Brentford, against Fulham. I wonder how we're going to do against those teams, because those teams are much better than these, so yeah. Denzel says Arsenal signed Marino and Calafiori. The Martinelli starts to cook. That cannot be a coincidence. Burmy says if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't move. Don't do it. Just leave it. Nivek says Waneri has to get games in the OD position. I mean, I think we're wasting this time. You guys know how I feel about it. I think we were wasting these really good opportunities to get him some good minutes to make him a usable member of the squad. If he doesn't get time now, he's not going to get time outside of the domestic cups. And I think that that's really unfortunate if that ends up being the reality. I thought he should have started against Leicester. He definitely should have started today, in my opinion. When we go away to Bournemouth, where he's not going to start him. So the next time we'll see him is probably Preston away. And the time that Waneri will get will be dictated by how long we stay in those domestic cups. So, missed opportunity for sure. So that was Havertz. Let's do Sterling. I do think people are being a little bit unfair on. I think if you didn't want Sterling, then you're like, oh, he was terrible. Look at him and Jesus. But I think people are lumping him in with Jesus, where his performance was much better than Jesus's, and it wasn't even close. I think with Sterling, he's still getting up to speed, and we don't ever really allow players to get up to speed, especially Sterling, who hasn't played a lot because he was like in the under 21s or some shit for Chelsea for a minute. He didn't really have a preseason with us. Just fucking relax. Like, he's fine. He's fine. I don't think he's ever going to be like, I mean, if he gets up to his best, he will contribute this season. But we still needed to go big in attack. And so I can only expect so much from Sterling. So, yeah. But isolating his performance from Jesus's, which I think people are conflating the two. I think he had some good direct moments. I think he had some moments where if maybe he's more up to speed, he hits the shot. I think that one shot that he did that went off of Benderek's head was going in the back of the net. So I think if some things, I think if he played with Havertz up front, I think he would have scored goals. I think with Jesus, just things became very hard, very quick. But, it wasn't like a groundbreaking performance or anything like that. I think it was just above average, like good, but not great. You know what I mean? So I want to give him credit for what he did and not just lump him in with Jesus because it's easy, especially because, like, despite me not wanting Sterling and thinking that was just like lame for us to do that, I'm not going to base all of my ratings of him on that, Now, Jesus, listen, there's not really much else. Like, the way my group chat was going in on this guy, like, was just so like, if you're still holding out hope, I don't know what to tell you. So many people were trying to gaslight in preseason saying he looks like he's back to his best. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He didn't look like that in preseason. I'm not surprised that we are in October and we already want the guy out the team. He's just very ineffective. He holds on to the ball too long. The creative aspect of his game, which was all that we really got from him because he never really scored a lot of goals, is gone. And he's getting a lot of time and favor from Mikel in a time where he doesn't really deserve it. And I think that's why he kind of needs to, like, either put up or shut up. He's the one who went into the media and said he's going to win his starting position back. Arteta's the one who went out into the media and said fire in the belly. I think they put a lot of more stress and more pressure on Jesus, a player that does not do well under pressure, than they needed to. I don't think he deserves to be getting these starts at this stage. I think, it just was strange to see him on the starting 11 today, because every time that he's started so far this season, he's been tragic, so I'm not surprised by the performance, but equally I'm trying to understand why we're forcing things. Why we didn't just start with Kai Havertz up front and Waneri in the 10. I just don't understand why. Maybe Arteta feels like in order for us to do anything, Jesus needs to be good. But I mean, we challenged both years with him out for a significant amount of time. I think we're okay, you know. But it's so sad that he can't even get back to like those first 3 months. Um, and I think it's more to do with this than anything else. If you know anything about Jesus, his mentality has always been his biggest downfall. So I'm gonna give him a 5. And I think that that's being maybe a little bit generous. I want to do Saka and Martinelli after, so let's finish these two because I don't want it to get lost in this. Winning Way says, sell Jesus, make your money back, or use him in a swap deal. Nelson says, I feel the only reason Jesus started today was solely rotational. He's rotational piece at this point. I guess my caveat to that, though, Nelson, is that you still started Havertz. If Havertz had not started today, that would make sense because you're trying to rest Havertz. But he intentionally went with this to get Jesus into the team. Because if Havertz wasn't being rested, he should have been played in his natural position because you had options. You could have done so many different things, you know, but I think Jesus starting is because Arteta didn't feel confident starting Waneri. That's the only thing I can think of. And he wanted maybe to rest Trossard, but so he dropped Havertz in. But if you were going to play Havertz anyway, you're not really rotating your center forward anyway. Havertz didn't get any benefit from Jesus starting. So for me, like maybe it was to rest Trossard, but there were other things that he could have done today and he didn't do them. He did that. Like, I don't get it. BroPro says, I'm still with my Jogo Benito guy. We will be back. Goyan says, do you remember when we would have that malaise period and bring on Nketiah from the bench? Yep, I do remember that. FK says, he has become too selfish. I don't know what happened to him. It's like he is jealous of the other players. Listen, I think the thing about this is that I saw some, obviously they had clipped the moment where Jesus came on against Leicester and we had just scored the winner and Arteta decided to bring him on after he had brought in Waneri. And Waneri changed the game, Trossard scored the goal, like it was a great moment and Jesus didn't look happy. Now, no player is going to look happy, but I do think Jesus has a little bit of like a weird, like, I'm projecting now, so this could be completely wrong, but I do feel like there's a little arrogance there. Like, I'm ex-City. I can't believe I'm not starting over Trossard or Havertz. And now that he's desperate to get his position back, he's more selfish and he's not good enough to be selfish. He needs to play for the team like he used to. I don't know why he's changing his game. He can't afford to be selfish. But, when you make big proclamations and you got that number 9 on your back and you're not living up to it, that's got to be a very difficult position to be in. But I don't think he's helping himself. So, yeah, Chosen One says, Jess, you said you wanted to talk about RVP. Oh, sorry. Let me get Jesus off my screen before I talk about this. I forgot about that comment. I'm sorry. And I'll get back to Martinelli and Saka in a second. But one thing that's also, I think, when we bought Havertz, it was like panic station for me. I was like, let me go get me some copium from them clips from Bayer Leverkusen because, child, I was rattled. I was like, this cannot be. And some of the clips from the Leverkusen days, I thought, yeah, we'll probably never get that back. Like, we'll probably never get that, But one thing that struck me about Havertz is he had the odd, really silky touch. And he did have more technical quality when he was at Leverkusen. Now, he was also 3 inches shorter. And I think when you go from 6'1" to 6'4", you take a while to get used to the way that your body moves. And I think that has made him more clumsy. But in the last couple of games, I've seen more flair from Havertz than we did last season, where he was keeping it more simple. And so I don't want to say he's RVP region, but what I will say is that you are seeing a more refined Havertz. And when he plays in that way, he does give me RVP vibes. Vibes, guys, vibes. Not he's just as good as RVP. Please don't overreact. But I do want to give him a credit for that too, is that I've been waiting for a little bit more of that arrogance and that flair and that audacity to come out. The goal that he scored today, some of the touches that he had today and over the last 3 games, by the way, against Leicester and PSG and Southampton, have reminded me more of Leverkusen Havertz, which will never come back. That version will never come back. But you're seeing glimpses of that player a little bit, sprinkles. And I like that, so, but I don't want to say if you watch RVP with your real eyes, or we don't want to disrespect him, but I think he's coming into his own, which is great. And if anybody was scoring this amount of goals, we'd be hearing world-class shouts, but because it's Havertz, they're not going to say it. If anybody from any other team was scoring at the rate that Havertz has been scoring in 2024, it would be everywhere. World class. That's all I'm going to say about that. Buki, great second half. I mean, he was good in the first, but nothing flowed because of the obvious. But he was so good in the second half and took the game by the scruff of the neck, him and Havertz, man. SAKAVERTZ and SAKANELLI, I moved. The pass to that the back post, if that was Lamine Yamal, that would be over every single website. Look at the pass for Lamine Yamal. We won't see it because it's Saka. But my goodness, 2 assists and a goal. He was so good today. And as a player, no matter, even if he wasn't amazing in that first half, we were, like I said before, without that Havertz goal, we were fucked, so all I really care about is that second half and how he took the game by the scruff of the neck. And how, the end product was there, everything was there. And then even Trossard and Saka had this moment in the second half where they were on that side and Trossard was doing his little, when Trossard gets a little cocky, he starts doing his little moves and stuff. And Saka over there was doing his little moves and stuff. And I was like, see, arrogance, audacity, confidence. That's what I like to see. That radiates when you have certain players on the team and on the pitch. Saka, he's having a really good season so far. The goal that he scored against Wolves, the assist today, the consistency of output, the consistency of performances so far. Cinema. I'm going to give him a 9.5. What more could you want? 2 open play assists and a goal. What more could you want? So fabulous. He was great. I want to take more time for Martinelli too. So that's why I'm doing each and reading the comments in between. Winning Way says Saka better than Rodrigo and Salah this year for me. Bropro says should get more. John Donut says Saka 10. Yeah, man. Richard says we need the goal difference, so it's his arrogance. FK says we don't need to argue Saka with rivals again. We know what we have at home. And, you would have thought it was an international break. Some of the debates that were going this past week, it was very strange. It was I felt like I was in an international break. I was like, is it international break? Because all I'm seeing is Odegaard versus Palmer, Saka, Foden, and Palmer. Is Saka world class? Blah, 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 blah. Just all these debates. And I just am Arsenal fans, if you want to get wrapped up in it, get wrapped up in it. But I'm not defending Saka anymore. I don't have to. I'm not insecure about Saka. Saka is fabulous. He is, if he played for anyone else, they would rate him. and some people, say it's because he's of a certain hue. I think sometimes it's that, but I think a lot of times it's just because he plays for Arsenal. Like there was a point in time where not only Chelsea fans wanted him, but people were saying that he needed to leave Arsenal and go to Man City because he would be fantastic there. And they would have rated him then. I'm sorry, but they go from our players are shit to they need to go to another team because they're too good for us. There's never a period where they're just good for us. And so I don't listen to rivals when they analyze our players because oftentimes they're disingenuous. Saka would be rated so much higher if he played for any other team. Any other team. Any other team. Consistency of end product, the way that he carries our team, he's just fabulous. So I'm not getting wrapped up in the bullshit. Like, I'm like, who cares? Who cares? Like, Saka's brilliant. So yeah. And he's only like, what, 23? Like, we don't need to be arguing with people about Saka. Like, come on. If they want him. Trust. Martinelli. I think the goal when he uses his instincts and just does what's natural to him, what happened today happens. When he does what's natural to him, what happened against Leicester happens. The times where he was 1v1 with the goalkeeper before and stuff like that, he was thinking too much. Martinelli is a natural finisher. When he doesn't have to think, he scores goals, period. The goal that he scored today, that's all I need to see from Martinelli. I don't care about anything else, because he's one of the only players that we have that has the natural goal scoring ability, so I'm happy for him. Like, I really am, because we're not going to do anything without him. He needs to get back to his best, and we just need to get him into positions where he doesn't have to think as much. And then when his confidence rises, he'll be able to do those 1v1s again. But I was really happy with that goal because as much as it was the winner, which was super important, you're seeing more of what Martinelli is about, which is instinctual finishing, not thinking about it, not taking extra touches, just be in the right place at the right time. So yeah, I'm gonna give him an 8. Like, I think the goal is a winning goal, and not all goals are created equal. It was a big goal in a big moment. And I thought the rest of his cameo was fine too. It was good, So yeah, Martinelli, thank you. Like, that's all we really need from Gabby. Is we don't need him to be like Saka. We need him to be what he is at his best, which is an instinctual finisher. So yeah. Deft says our attack for years was either Saka does something or we don't score at all. And he was like 19. He's Def 1 of 1. Theo says that back post whip pass to Nelly. I missed it so much. And I just want to see more of Martinelli and Saka combine. When we were at our best, they combined all the time. We could probably count on one hand, maybe last season, the amount of times that they connected with each other. So they have great synergy. Maybe Fabio was coming in between them. I don't know. Y'all tell me. But Martinelli gets an 8 for me. John Donut says Starboy is shining. BroPro says 8. Martin N says Nelly 9. Jacob says Martinelli is getting back to his best. Shagun says 8. Troy, Arsenal FC. Mitchell says, I want to play Real Madrid right now in the CL. We are not afraid. No. Ivy says Martinelli is back. Chance goal. That's what I want to see. Solingen says 90% of Arsenal YouTubers fake outrage every game just for views. Jarring. That's why I rate you and diluted. I try not to do if I genuinely am upset about the game, it's genuine. It's not because I'm trying to make people upset or trying to get clicks and views. I'm genuinely just not happy with the outcome or the performance, so I know anybody who's not positive all the time is put into a certain category, but genuinely sometimes I'm just like, that was ass. And I just say it because it is. Today, I don't really have the energy in me to be super mad about the performance because I can see why. If we had played our starting 11, like our best 11, and did the same thing that we did today, I would be fuming, fam. I'd be fuming. But because I know that Arteta started off with that bum ass lineup in the beginning and you could tell it was the L, it's almost like, okay, we know why it wasn't good enough. You know, but I don't do fake outrage. If I'm upset, I'm upset. Like, you know, maybe you could call me, maybe more on the reactionary side, but it's not fake outrage. Um, I also saw like a big YouTuber. This is like a side note. Big YouTuber, Arsenal YouTuber, mentioned that he said United fans are cleaning up right now. They are in their peak Wenger days, right? Banter days. And I thought to myself, see, I wouldn't have never even thought that. But the fact that you're even thinking that way, I do feel like there are some people in our fan base that want us to go back to those days because that's when they were making the most money. It's being positive doesn't make you money in this business. Being negative gets you money. That's why you see dudes like Saeed and that other guy that built his platform off of Goldbridge's platform and now is like screaming and, you know, being negative actually gets you more money than being positive. And so the fact that anybody would even think that way for me is like strange because I don't think that, you know? So yeah. Fuming fam. Listen. That was a good accent. Bro Pro says Martinelli hype is closed. Some people overdoing it, like it's totally useless footballer. Winning Way says stop calling Calafiori Maldini. The Arsenal perspective says one thing I really liked about our substitutes was that they all seemed impactful. Yeah, because they were the fucking starters. they're the starters, of course. But yeah, I mean, they didn't want to lose that game. And we shouldn't have been even close to not winning it, you know. Honorable mention to Marino, who I thought did some good things and some not so good things. Personally, I think that he did fine, you know, but I know some people are gonna instantly hate him for reasons that are completely obvious. Give him time to actually get into the team. Keenan says, just remember when Jesus got injured and I said he would never recover and we would sell and everybody lost their shit. Well, was I right? Like always. I don't know if you're always right, but you're right about that one. The Arsenal perspective says true. Being negative is pull nowadays. Saeed TV eating good. This brother got 30K in 2 months. Exactly. Like you'll never get that type of viewership when you're positive because rivals don't watch positive fan reactions. They don't. So when your team is losing, if you're a YouTuber, that is when they eat, you know. So that's why there are certain people in our fan base that consistently push negativity because they secretly wish we'd go back to the Wenger days. Because that's when they were making the most money. I'm not one of those. I want us to win more than fucking anything on this planet. Like you guys have no idea how much I want to win. That's all I want. Like just a harmless potato says it depends. The big three, United, Liverpool, and Arsenal, do have more haters than lovers because of all the success and the rivalries that come with it. Smaller clubs usually have more lovers than haters. The crazy thing is, I live for a little United stand, a little Saeed TV, United View. I live for that shit. Like I live for it. When they lose, whoo! I love watching you lose, Man United. There's nothing better. But they are in their in their peak Wenger days. They really are in that like eat while you can right now, guys. Like when they lose, go now because they're gonna change this manager. And I'm just like, it's been so fun, hasn't it? Shamaria says rival fans lovely Gunner tells you what you need to know. Exactly. Yaya says Saeed rant on what's his name eating like Barani while United were getting spanked was peak. Yeah. But yeah, that's the formula is to be negative for negative sake. And so if your team starts doing well, if this is all you do and you've built your channel off of being negative, you're like you're in fear, because you're thinking like once we get good again, it's done. And it just is, so but if somebody was like, just if Arsenal won if Arsenal could win the Champions League and but in turn you'd have to shut down your channel forever, would you take it? I would shut down my channel in a fucking minute. I would shut it down so quickly you would never see me on here again if Arsenal could win a Champions League. I just want us to win. I don't care, so but yeah, I'm pretty happy, guys. We go into international break now, not having lost a game. Do I wish that these games would have been more fun? Yes, making hard work of Leicester and Southampton is, shit, but also I'm not like terribly worried, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not as worried as I was when we were drawing to Fulham, I know, because we also played really well against PSG. We've had some hard performances, I think, are hard games. So, I'm not worried. I do hope that when we come back from the break and we play against Bournemouth, we are a little bit more, we can make a little bit more light work out of this. I mean, we weren't even playing well last season. And when we played Bournemouth, we beat them 4-0. So at some stage, we need to get the 4 zeros in there, the 3 zeros in there, because goal difference is important. But ultimately, like, we know why we weren't good today, and I can live with that, So yeah, I'm going to read some more of these comments, probably going to stay on for another 10 minutes or so. So yeah, get your comments in, get your man of the match in too. Yeah. That coffee is cold as hell. Richard says we can rotate. He picked the wrong team. I agree with that. I don't think it's we can't rotate. We can rotate. We just have to stop forcing certain things that just don't work. Arteta 5 years into this, and I feel like there's just sometimes where he places less importance on dynamics and balance and more importance on players that he trusts, and I think that's usually his downfall, because in isolation, you can trust Jorginho. In isolation, maybe you can trust Jesus, but under these circumstances, in the way the dynamics are, it just doesn't work, so, but it's very clear to me that he doesn't feel like Winery is like ready. And that worries me, because I'm like, he's ready. Like, so Richard says Havertz in midfield is so not worked, and it doesn't. And he's like, it's not because Havertz is playing shit in there. It just doesn't work, So yeah, just stop doing it. Jordan says, I think Arteta messed up playing both Sterling and Jesus up top. Yeah, I also don't think that works. But listen, when we come back from that break, it'll be, unless something terrible happens, I don't see when the next time we're going to see Jesus, because this was the easy run. He gave him Bolton. He actually tried to start him against Atalanta, and that was a mistake. But he started him against Bolton, and then he started him today. So, and then we have Bournemouth, Shakhtar, Liverpool. The next time you'll probably see Jesus is October 30th against Preston. So, hopefully that's not, we won't see him very often. I know that's going to sound so harsh, but like, I'm not trying to see him. Like, John says, I don't really want to see our back four playing this international week. They need rest. Arteta, Edu, move like a big club until France, Brazil, Italy. No, I just, I think, I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if I think the player has to want to stay back. I don't think Arteta can override it. I don't think Arteta can just call Deschamps or, whatever person is at a Brazil or, I don't think he can just call these people and say no. they're not going. I think the players have to want to stay back. And I feel like the problem is you have some of our players are captains of their national team, so that makes it even harder. And then you have players that are not as established in their national team that can't say no. So I think we underestimate some of our players are not, they're either too important to the team and they're leaders, or they're not established enough. So I don't think they feel comfortable saying, no, I don't want to go. Gabriel right now can't say no. He's not established enough. Bremer just got injured and he's going to be out for a while. This is his best chance in a while to try to solidify himself in that left, center back position for Brazil. And he's going to want to go. Saliba, he's just now gotten the starting position. If he doesn't go now, he'll lose it. They have too much competition for places in that part of the pitch. Italy, Calafiori, he maybe he's not somebody that has to be there, but is he established enough to say no? I'm not sure. So I think it's a tough one. But one person that definitely should not be going is Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu's ass needs to stay back. White will get rest and will probably be back for the next for Bournemouth. So will Timber. They'll probably both be back. Tomiyasu being back also can help us with Calafiori too, because his minutes need to be managed. Because I feel like he's already playing with Knox. Calafiori, I feel like he's already playing with Knox. So if you have White, and Tommy, you can start both of them against Bournemouth and probably be just fine. So I think that's the one player that is probably just as established enough in his national team that he could stay back, but he's also not like a leader in that team. So it's like not like they're counting on him. But Rice and Saka being in this leadership group for England is so problematic, because they definitely are not going to say no, and they kind of can't too. So yeah, I think it's a tough one. If you have players that are established but not leaders, they could stay out. But we don't have a lot of players like that. Sean says Tommy isn't going. He wasn't named to Japan squad for international break. Great. Perfect. Jordan says because Calafiori and Partey and Tomiyasu are injury prone. And Brian, thank you so much for your super chat. Says Havertz has been so good. It makes me wonder why he didn't work at Chelsea. Chelsea is known for having good players, just not look good for them, and I think they'll make it as that, though, like he just wasn't good enough for Chelsea. But I can name 5 players off of the top of my head that have left Chelsea and look really good. Havertz, Conor Gallagher, Pulisic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek at times, for AC Milan as well. You can rattle off players that look good as soon as they leave Chelsea. I think it's just more of like they went through a really weird period, and a lot of players, talented players, got caught up in that period. So Keenan and KDB, there's so many players that you can think of. Jorginho's fine for us. Like I don't really think it's like they're not good enough for Chelsea. I think they just now got to a point where they have a manager and a structure and a solidity that they can build off of, but they were in turmoil for like 5 years. And yeah, they won like a trophy in that time, but it really wasn't like, do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, I think people are like, it's, we've had good players that came through during our tumultuous time that have done fine without like away from us. We know that a lack of solidity and stuff like that can affect a player, and environment is super important. And Arteta said that Havertz needs love, and Arteta is very much like a psychologist with his players, and he knows what certain players need. He knows that Havertz just needed that, like, to be able to relax in an environment and feel like he's needed and loved and stuff. And now he's coming up roses, So yeah, Arteta knows what his players needs. It's fine. James says maturity is realizing that Arsenal needs Thomas Partey more than he needs us. I've seen this quote going around like a lot. I've also seen people saying that he's definitely getting a deal. It's not the best source, so I wouldn't be saying it like it's happening for sure. If Thomas Partey does get a new deal, I think it's a mistake. But you guys know how I feel about it. Also would explain why he's playing well now, because he's playing for a contract. Jordan says Havertz is world class. His ability when he is confident is up there with the best. Gnabry, Malin, Benacer, Mkhitaryan. Players do well. Players do well when they leave bad environments, whether that's Chelsea or Man United. Look at fucking McTominay. Look at McTominay. So I saw Van der Beek score a goal like 2 days ago. I was like, it's not synonymous with Chelsea. It's, you just need to get players in the right environment and they'll shine if they're good. So yeah. But guys, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Arteta, when I catch you, you're so lucky, because that was not a good performance. And I mostly blame you, so yeah. But I think Havertz, that moved me so much. Saka, that moved me. Martinelli, that moved me. Trossard, some of the little stuff that you did when you came on, it moved me. I loved it. And Calafiori, yeah. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on your way out. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Bye, guys.